Welcome to Truly Heal and Wound Healing with Ozone. Now, if you have open wounds, infected wounds, diabetic gangrene, ulcers, pressure ulcers, radiation burns, any kind of infected wound that doesn't heal anywhere in your body, then this video is for you. Ozone is an incredible treatment proven to work in thousands of research studies. And for those of you who already know that, who are already convinced and know, yes, I know ozone works, I would like to learn how to use it, well, simply fill in your name and email here to the site and we'll send you the protocol. We also send you combination treatments that really enhance the process, and we invite you to a weekly Q&A webinar where you can learn, ask questions, and really dive into a protocol strategy that works. We've interviewed so many doctors from around the world that all can help you in learning the best ways to help yourself. Now, for those of you who are not quite yet there and first want to know what ozone does, or you've heard things about ozone that are not really positive, well, just follow me through this slideshow here and we'll look at some of those facts very, very easily. All right. 7,000 research studies showing the effectiveness of ozone. And for those of you who want to read those studies, right at the bottom of this page, you see red tabs on the left, what the study is about. And on the right-hand side, we've printed the abstract. So go into them, look up what your particular problem is and how you can treat it really, really well with ozone and see the results. The International Ozone Association reports over 7,000 MDs in Europe alone using ozone safely and effectively, some of them for more than 40 years. Yet the FDA in America and TGA Australia and New Zealand have not approved this treatment for medical human trials or have approved any devices to create ozone. And the reason is very simple, because it can't be patented. To invest into approval with the FDA, millions of dollars with human trials is a very costly experience. And if you can't patent the remedy in the end, well, everybody can use your approval and use it. And that's why nobody will ever go through that process of legal approving this treatment. Yet, it's known to work. And it would reap real havoc if people would understand that there is actually a treatment for these infectious diseases. If you have open wounds, diabetic gangrene, there is no solution from the medical side. In actual fact, the only thing you can do is using antibiotics until you're resistant, until your bugs have transformed into antibiotic resistant bugs, and then they keep growing and getting your wounds more and more infected. And the big problem here is that only amputation is the solution. You know, toe amputation, leg amputation, foot amputation are the general treatment. So it's a joke. If there is a treatment which works and proven to work in many, many countries, but it's not approved in your country, it would be a waste of time not to do it. Now, they use the argument that ozone is dangerous, and they build a big propaganda around that. Well, water is dangerous. If you drink too much water at once, you collapse your kidneys. You dilute the blood with all the salts and the concentration, so you could die of it. You can die of too much zinc and selenium. Well, if you have not enough, your immune system doesn't work. Everything that we use too little or too much causes trouble. But in the right quantity, it's one of the biggest cleansers that we have in this world. Now, statements of this nature are unjustified and fraudulent when they are intended to misinform or alarm the public in a way that would indicate that ozone is unsafe under all circumstances. In actual fact, there is 5.5 million treatments with no incidents. The only incidents that were reported, you know, they say it's a 0.00007 accident rate, which is the lowest in all medical treatments in the world. And that was because of punctured veins, because of accidents with needles and the application, not with the ozone. So it's a complete misrepresentation of this treatment. And I would like to clarify just very simply that it's absolutely safe. It's a natural occurrence. When you have oxygen outside in the air and there is lightning going in from a thunderstorm, then that lightning splits off of O2, which is air, oxygen, a singlet oxygen, which then attaches to other O2 molecules and it turns into O3. Now that's a very volatile condition that doesn't last very long. So it splits off again, releases its energy, which is singlet oxygen that many of you know, very powerful for healing, and converts back into normal oxygen. Now we use this inside our bodies to actually kill off pathogens, and secondary to fill our body with very energized, very vibrant oxygen that then can help with all of the treatments that we need to do. And because it kills off pathogens, it's very powerful in the use against all different parasites, and we'll cover them in a moment. Now, think about oxygen is the original module. It's O2, and it's converted into O3, which then transforms back into O2. So we talk, in actual fact, only of oxygen. And when you think about oxygen is produced by all the plants, by all the phytoplankton around the world, what do we die of? What do we kill off? The trees, the deforestation globally and the dying off of all the phytoplankton in the ocean has reduced our oxygen levels dramatically in the last 50, 80, 100 years. So we're deprived of oxygen, plus our lifestyles. We don't walk anymore. We don't run outdoors. We don't work outdoors. We sit in offices. We drive in the car, drive through pharmacy, drive through funeral home, like to mention the most important of all. We don't have the oxygen uptake that we need. And that's where ozone really turns into a massive energy booster as soon as you start using it without having a disease. The second issue is, and you can see that in those three images, if you have plenty of oxygen, you will see that the uptake of the cell, the membrane protection, is really strong. If you go into a deprived, which we call anaerobic state, then your cells get sick, they get inflamed, they can't do their work, they can't produce the enzymes. And then you go even further, as soon as those cells stay too long in that anaerobic environment, they turn cancerous. And that's one of the reactions that we have. A cancer cell doesn't need oxygen to survive. It turns the metabolism, ATP production, energy production, from an aerobic into an anaerobic process. It ferments glucose. That's why cancer cells love sugar. They ferment their food. They don't need oxygen. And that's one of the factors that we see that cancer rates are going up because oxygen levels in the body are going down. Now, when we understand the principle of ozone, we know that it can be used not only for cancer, not only for wound healing. It has many applications: ulcers, some forms of cancer, AIDS, viral diseases, wounds, scars, burns, gangrene, diabetes, pressure ulcers, liver disease, including hepatitis and hepatitis C, can be treated very, very successfully. There are studies that show that it can remove Helicobacter pylori in a matter of 6 weeks, Russian studies, with drinking of ozone water. So it's very potent treatment for many different diseases, whereas the facts, what it actually does is quite simple. It oxygenates the body, it kills off pathogens, and it activates your body's own defense system. So ozone is also known, and I said that before, the only substance in the world that is virucidal, it kills off virus, bactericidal, bacteria, any form, even mutated, antibiotic mutated bacteria die off with ozone. Fungicidal, protozooicidal, my favorite word, single cell living beings, and cancericidal. So it kills off cancer cells and cancer stem cells as well. In many clinics in Europe, they actually inject ozone directly inside into the tumor to destroy it from the inside out with great success. There is over 3,000 medical papers, 7,000 references in the medical literature and attesting the efficacy with millions of treatments applied. And you might be the one who's missing out just because your doctor is not open to it and follows standard protocol. So just open up to that idea of having more treatments available that can help you is already a huge step into the right direction. And let's just go. I won't cover them all. I have those slides below. You can look them up. You can read them all. I don't cover everything. But I would like to mention one of the most important, to me, most exciting processes. Poorly oxygenated cells. So we say cells that don't have enough oxygen, anaerobic environment, are good news for bacteria and virus. These cells are unable to make their defense enzymes strong enough to prevent invasions of pathogens. We know that a virus needs a host, a cell, and then it dogs onto that cell and replicates in that cell by killing off the cell. Now, a healthy cell has a membrane which is protected, and the protection is with superoxidase dismutase, SOD, reductase, glutathione, master antioxidant, and catalase. So when you see that the protection of a normal healthy cell can defend against viral infections, all the bacterial and mold and fungal infections, then you understand that as soon as oxygen goes down, those cells can be infested. And that's the main factor that we deal with when we use ozone. Disease cells are, as well as pathogens are fungus, virus, bacteria, mold, have no protective enzyme shield. So they die off when I use ozone. And healthy cells thrive because they need oxygen, they love oxygen to live in. And this was what Otto Warburg actually found out. As soon as I have an aerobic and very highly concentrated oxygen content, my cells can deal with diseases a lot better. And that's why it also separates. It doesn't kill off all bacteria. Your healthy bacteria will thrive, whereas unhealthy bacteria will be eliminated. And that's a very powerful fact. The second one, which is, you can see here beside me, this little white blood cell. It chases a bacteria which has probably entered your bloodstream through a wound, through an ulcer, through any kind of infection that goes through, or leaky gut, and that travels through your bloodstream. And then they chase bacteria, fungi, mold, we know, and they're the scavengers. They are your police force that clean up. Now think about when they do, and they catch an invader like this white blood cell just did, they need a respiratory burst. They need 100 times more oxygen to do the job. I need to catch that invader. They need a lot of air to do that. And that's what your red blood cells will supply and give to those white blood cells if they have it. And that's why ozone oxygenation is so powerful for your immune system to work. Now, there is another factor, and we know from diabetic gangrene or neuropathy that you get dark legs. The circulation of your fine capillaries is blocked. It doesn't work anymore. Your blood is stagnant, it's too thick, and your red blood cells are not pliable anymore. And that's what you create with ozone. You actually release a chemical reaction which increases your ATP production, glycolysis, and then it also produces the release of oxygen from the hemoglobin a lot faster into the tissue. So your red blood cells, as they travel through the lung, they take on the oxygen and then they travel to the tissue, and to release it there, they become a lot more efficient with ozone. Also, it increases the red blood cell pliability, blood fluidity, arterial oxygen content, and decreases rouleau information so that it doesn't, look at the rouleaus here. When you have blood clotting or you have really highly energized red blood cells like you see in the lower right-hand image, that's the effect that you have after one ozone treatment. Rectal insufflation and your blood changes. So it's very important. And then that sleeping policeman all of a sudden gets fresh air and gets all the energy and gets all the chemical processes to deal with invaders, and that's what we want. I'd just like to show you these images here at the bottom. This is the first one, Clostridium, and we know 90 or 80% of our world population has Clostridium in their stool. So when you do a stool test, it will be there. And that deforms, it actually destroys that mucous membrane in a big way so that bacteria and everything can enter. Now, after 4 weeks, you see the image totally to the right of rectal ozone. That's all repaired. The tissue membrane works, the nuclei works, it's working perfectly. Now that's huge. And if you have ulcerative colitis, which is, ulcers in your colon, the same thing. Treatment of 4 weeks with 20 to 30 milligrams, 3 to 500 milliliter, 4-week treatment, and you see the results. Taken with biopsy, this is an amazing result. And just using that alone will probably enhance your whole healing mechanism manifold. And that's something we learned. When you use only topically ozone with your plastic bag or with your ozone water, or with your ozone cream, it's all fine. But if you support it with a systemic treatment like the rectal insufflation, the healing process is manifold expedited. And all of those research studies show that. And that's what we've built for you in our training program. You will learn exactly what to do, when to do it, how to do it, even concentrations, and the most famous protocols. Those protocols have been tested for 50 years and they've been fine-tuned, and we show you exactly how you can replicate them at home. Now, there is another great advantage of using the rectal insufflation, with a catheter. You don't need needles, and this is one of the big problems that we have, avoiding those big needles. And you can see here on the top side, those needles that they use for autohemotherapy, they're big. And that's quite scary, especially for children. You can't do it. Young children with autism, ADHD, all the different food sensitivities, all the celiac disease, where the gut needs to be repaired. You cannot do that with autohemotherapy. Elderly people often don't find veins, so you avoid that process. You also have no travel time to the doctor, sitting there for 2 hours, having your treatment, going back home, especially if you don't have a local doctor who offers ozone treatments. And that's why when I saw the Cuba study, I was actually really excited, because it confirmed that 3 times autohemotherapy actually has the same results as 5 times rectal. And you can do 5 times at home. It's a very small dose. You can do that in the morning after you've been to the toilet, you cleaned your bowel, then you have your treatment, and then you don't even feel it. It's like a big fart up your butt that you can release after 5 or 10 minutes, and that's it. So it's a very convenient way to have the same results without needing to pay the extra fee from your doctor. I'm not saying don't go to the doctor. I work with all the doctors. They're great people. They're really great. But for a treatment like that, you can do it at home, and then you work testing and looking for all the other things that are contributing with your doctor and checking out how well your body heals. Now, ozone can be used for sinus infections. What we said before, it can be used for ear infections, for superficial wounds, like we said, open wounds that this subject is about. You will find all the images, all the research before, mid, and after images below, and beware, it's quite disturbing, some of those images. But it shows that the real cure is actually by removing the cause. And the 3 main factors that are dealt with ozone is oxygenation, because we are deprived, detoxification of plastic toxicity, and stimulation of your immune system, and getting rid of all the pathogens, all the unhealthy bacteria, fungi, mold, and virus, as one of the most effective treatments of all, and all of a sudden your body can heal. Now, if you would like to learn the protocol, learn how to use it, fill in your name and email. You can click at the button below in between all the images, or right up here beside the video, and fill in your name and email, and we'll send you to our training program where you learn the protocol, all the adjunct treatments that combined have a lot greater effect, and you're invited to our Q&A webinar, which really going to change the way, because you'll understand, you can ask your questions, and you can clarify all your personal problems as well. All right?